Good afternoon, everyone. My fellow commissioners, welcome to the 6th meeting of the California Commission on the State of Haight. Closed captioning is available for this meeting. Before I get to the closed captioning, I want to call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. 9:01 a.m. on Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. Again, closed captioning is available for this meeting. The closed captions can be displayed in English or another language, which will allow you to view an automated live transcript of the meeting in another language, including Spanish, Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese. To display closed captions on your screen, please do the following. Click the button labeled Show Captions at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you'd like to display captions in a language other than English, select the box at the bottom of the window labeled Enable Translation. You will see a window with the heading You've enabled translation at the top. Select English as the speaking language and select your preferred language in the second menu. Then click Save. Automated captions in your selected language should start appearing at the bottom of the Zoom window. We'll send the instructions how to do this in Spanish in the chat as well. I'd like to start that today by acknowledging that since our last meeting, we've celebrated a couple of things, including Juneteenth, and that this is also Pride Month. So a happy Juneteenth and happy Pride to all. Now I would like to establish a quorum. Alec, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Chair Roybal.
Present.
Vice Chair Salcedo.
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Che. Commissioner Cuellar.
Here.
Commissioner Damsky.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Filer.
Here.
Commissioner Levin.
Here.
Commissioner Sinar. Commissioner Suthers.
Here.
Thank you very much. We have a quorum, and again, welcome to all the commissioners. I want to review the agenda now. The agenda may be viewed by visiting the commission's website at calcivilrights.ca.gov/commission on the state of Haight. You can also reach the commission website by entering Commission on the State of Haight in any search engine. When you get to the page, click on the button labeled Meetings and Agendas. We'll also send the link in the chat for those of you who are joining us online, and you can get to it that way. Before reviewing the agenda for this meeting, I'd also just like to remind everyone about the process for public comment. First, the commission is a public body, and an important part of being a public body is hearing from the public. To that end, this meeting is open to the public, and there will be opportunities for public comments throughout the meeting today. To keep an orderly meeting, please make sure to comment only on the agenda item under consideration. If you have comments that are not specifically related to an agenda item, please save your comment for agenda item 7 titled Public Comment of Items Not on the Agenda. To submit a written public comment, you can email the commission at csh@calcivilrights.ca.gov. We'll also put that in the chat. We'll be monitoring this channel throughout the meeting. If you submit a written comment that pertains to an agenda item, we will read it aloud or summarize it when the public comment portion of that agenda item is open and before any vote. If the comment is not about a specific agenda item, we will read it aloud or summarize it at the end of the meeting during agenda item 7 titled Public Comment on Items Not on the Agenda. If you would like to speak at the meeting to deliver your public comment, you will have the opportunity to do so during the public comment portions of the meeting. You may request to speak on an agenda item by raising your hand on Zoom. If you are joining on a computer, you can raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. During the public comment portion, we will call on attendees who raise their hands to allow them to unmute and to deliver comments. In the interest of time, we will limit verbal public comments to 3 minutes per person. We do have one change to the agenda item today. We will skip agenda item 4. That will be removed from the agenda discussion and action regarding the commission's member handbook. We have some additional work to do on that that will likely appear on a future agenda. We'll have the subcommittee updates, approve the minutes, and then hear from public, talk about future agenda items. And then, of course, if there are public comments for items not on the agenda, we will do that as well. So let's move on to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which included both our business meeting and the community forum. This is attachment A. We'll post the link in the chat to download attachment A from the commission's website. It's also available on the website. Before we get to any discussion on the minutes, I again want to extend my congratulations and thanks to Commissioners Filer and Cuellar for putting together the wonderful community forum. I got to watch the video. It was great. Great attendance, a very substantive conversation. So thank you, and to the subcommittee on community forums for putting that together. I cannot wait for the future community forum. So thank you again. Let's move on now to a discussion on the question as my lights go out and where I'm sitting. Any discussion on the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes before we get to public comment?
So moved.
I'll
Moved by,
second that motion.
moved by Commissioner Filer, seconded by Commissioner Cuellar. Any other commission discussion about the minutes? Are there any public comments about the minutes?
No public comment.
No public comment. We'll go ahead and move to a vote. Alec, will you call the roll, please?
Sure, Chair Roybal,
Approved. Aye.
Vice Chair Salcedo,
Aye.
Commissioner Che, Commissioner Cuellar,
Aye.
Commissioner Damsky,
Aye.
Commissioner Filer,
Aye.
Commissioner Levin,
Aye.
Commissioner Sinar, Commissioner Suthers.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Let's move on to agenda item number 3 today, which is a report from the California Civil Rights Department. Today, that report will be delivered by Deputy Director Becky Monroe. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And I am excited to give a little bit of an update on California versus hate. So, you know, as people may remember, we now, for the first time in our state's history, have a statewide resource line and network that helps people connect to culturally competent resources and support, understand what their options are, and long-term will help to improve our data collection around hate incidents and hate crimes. And for the first month since our formal launch, which was on May 4th, we had hundreds of calls and submissions, both online and through our 8338 No Hate number. Of those hundreds of calls, we had about 180 reports of acts of hate across the state. And of those acts, we had about 50% people who 50% of those people who were reporting those requested additional care coordination services. We think this is significant because it sort of speaks to what we heard from partners across the state while we were building this, is that we wanted, in order to make this resource line and network one that actually served the needs of people targeted for hate, it was critical that we actually provide resources and support that were meaningful and helpful. And I'm incredibly grateful to our community-based organization colleagues across the state who have helped us to make sure when we are responding to each and every one of these calls or submissions that we are doing so in a comprehensive way. We have tremendous partners in the 211 statewide network who make sure that when those calls are answered, they are answered by someone who is trauma-informed and who understands that it may take time for people to find the strength to ask for help. So we look to improve and certainly we think we'll increase those numbers. I'm sure many of you saw the Attorney General's most recent report around hate crimes that were reported to law enforcement. Those numbers are increasing. As a reminder, people reporting to us can report incidents or crimes. It doesn't need to be a crime, but we know there continues to be an increase in acts of hate and a need for these resources and support. So We're pleased by the initial response. We know we have more work to do. You will be hearing more from us as we set up our regular meetings with community-based organizations across the state. Those quarterly meetings will include, we hope, very frank discussion about what we can be doing better in terms of making sure that we're actually reaching people who have been targeted, and that we're doing better in terms of connecting people with the kinds of resources that they actually need. So we're happy about that update, but know we have more work to do. Commissioner Filer?
Yes, a quick question, Becky. It's just, I'm thinking out loud. As we're getting better in our reporting, which hopefully we are, could it be deceiving that there's been a surge, or is it just finally we're at the, understanding exactly where we're at because we're getting the accurate reporting that should have been going on for the past several years?
I think that's such an important question. And I unfortunately think we are still likely seeing underreporting. So I think that we were starting at such a deficit that I think that we are still seeing underreporting. And that is based both on data that, for example, I know Commissioner Levin has collected through his work. Also, if you look at the federal level, I think, all of us, when we're looking at hate crimes data, have a lot more work to do. But if you look at the federal level, and we've talked about this in the past, the federal hate crimes numbers will be around 8,000, 8,000 every year, when the same, Department of Justice says the National Crime Victimization Survey, which is reflecting what people report, so sometimes it's closer to 250,000. So there's a huge gap there that we know still exists. So I think that's an important point. The other thing I love about you raising that is that part of what we need to do as a civil rights community and what we want to support our colleagues in doing across the state is there can be this sort of, when you have more reports of hate, it's not necessarily something that a city looks to do, right? They don't want to say, oh, look, we saw an increase in acts of hate. But I think to your point, it is an increase in people trusting enough to report. And I really want us to sort of think about that. And as civil rights advocates, it's important for us to sort of make that point so that when we see this increase, there's never anything good about devastating acts of hate. And I think, we've got commissioners, all of you know how the sort of intense pain that comes with that. But it is an important sign when more people are reporting in our state, when we have more law enforcement agencies that are reporting more than zero. So I think it's unfortunately not a super clear-cut thing to say, but I do say in the long run, unfortunately, I think it's still underreported. And we're just kind of getting, to your point, a little bit closer to the accurate number. But I know Commissioner Levin has something to add to that as well.
Yes, and that is kind of putting this into a little context. I have had the pleasure of knowing what is your you have a highfalutin title. It's now it's different than when I knew you back in the DC days. But anyway, Counselor Monroe, and just a couple of things. She had a background federally, running an agency that dealt with communities, not with just setting up administrata, going into communities that needed assistance. And one of the things that happened, it's a shame that Commissioner Shea isn't here today, because both of our research, Stop API Hate and our center's research, was used when we had this horrifying spike in anti-Asian hate crime, for which then both of our research, both sets were used by both sides of the aisle in the passage of the COVID-19 Act, COVID-19 Hate Crime Act, which enabled to get some kind of federal resources to put together the good ideas that Becky and a team of Ms. Monroe and a team of others for years. And what we found when we put together a hotline over 20 years ago in the IE, it didn't work. Now, with the statewide leverage, the multiple languages, and the ability to consistently get this number and website out, wow, what an achievement. I hope the governor is paying attention to the wonderful work that you did with this, because if you want to look at the numbers, Oregon just did something recently similar, and they got over 500 over the course of a year. 180 in the first month is, well, it's terrible. Actually, it's terrible, but it's also a really good sign. And remember, we're going to be able to promote this at our activities around the state, and when there is, unfortunately, some kind of terrible incident. But with respect to the question about reporting, the only thing that we have now from the feds, BGS, was 2019, showed for the first time in the latter part of last decade that 54% of victims were responding. But there's massive underreporting in various communities, and what we're afraid of, and again, I don't want to talk for Commissioner Che, but one of the things that she brought up when we were both in DC on this is, even though you're seeing a decline, for instance, in anti-Asian hate crime, couple of quick things: we need these kinds of resources to get non-law enforcement help and law enforcement when needed into these communities. And even with these declines, for instance, we're seeing the exact same percentage decrease, it would still be the second worst year ever for anti-Asian hate crime. And the other thing that we saw was, even after an elongated spike and a decline, some kind of catalyst or political event can rocket it up again. So when you're looking at these data, be careful to understand that, unlike before, yes, we have more victims reporting, but we have wide swaths where they're not. And I just want to congratulate you, Becky, for years of work, not only here in California, but setting the framework so that we could get this done on an extended basis, not just for California, which we're the beneficiary of this federal legislation, but we're actually applying it with the kind of expertise that's necessary. So since your agency isn't going to sing your kudos today, it really makes a difference. This kind of showing in just 1 month, I think is a good indicator of its catching on, but this is going to be a long-term project that all of us should promote, because most of those folks who called in this hotline would not have reported at all, right? They could have called 911 and they didn't. So what I'm saying to you is, you really have to look at the context of these data, and I would hope that Mr. Kish, who chairs the Civil Rights Department, and the governor really take note of this wonderful success that you are behind, Becky. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing this when it was just an abstraction. Now you're helping victims throughout the state. God bless you, Becky.
Well, thanks. And thank you. And I will say, this is really, it is the work of a lot of community-based organizations that got us here, as well as pretty extraordinary team here at Civil Rights Department. And, Director Kish has been extraordinarily supportive of all of this work. I also, it was great at the launch to have Chair Roybal, Vice Chair Salcedo, and Commissioner Cuellar there as well. So we really appreciate that support, and I think we do have more to do. The other thing I wanted to highlight that you noted, and I think is important to note, is that this is not just the Civil Rights Department. We really are the state. This is a whole state effort. So, we were just reflecting what the State Attorney General has just released. The State Attorney General is helping to share our resources. We are also closely working with the California Department of Social Services. They have a very large and impressive grant program for service providers, and we've been working closely with them. It's called their Stop the Hate program. Our state library is doing great work through ethnic media to do Stop the Hate work. I think it's just important to note we are really lucky in this state to have so many different agencies that are working across agencies. So I will end it there. The only quick other update, I wanted to just do another plug for our extraordinary and small but mighty community conflict resolution unit. So we had mentioned that briefly before. This is a small unit that was recently launched. We've had the authority to do this, but only under the direction of Director Kish did we finally get funding for this. And that is to help communities to address tension on the basis of discrimination, including acts of hate outside the context of the criminal or criminal legal system, or in some cases, civil legal system. It's really getting to make sure that communities are at the center of addressing tension in their communities and of addressing civil rights issues. And we have seen, we are in the midst of a lot of really exciting work in communities. Much of it right now is still, because of our confidentiality mandate, we cannot share a lot of details other than to say we are active now in regions across the state, and we are hearing from people who are really committed to addressing systemic discrimination in their communities, and we're helping to sort of support them in that work. So I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Monroe. Commissioner Suthers, did you have a question?
No, not a question, just a comment. I wanted to echo Commissioner Levin's applause and compliments of Director Monroe. She and her team, they've done a fantastic job. Also support and commend and compliment the commissioners who were with her for the launch. But most importantly, as we talk about increased reporting, I really want to champion Commissioner Filer's effort to reach out to the faith-based community. We had a lot of success years ago with a research effort that we engaged in on disasters and religions, and we found that the faith-based community was an incredible bridge to the community to get information as it related to educating them and making them more aware of challenges and how to address them. So thank you both for what you're doing, and look forward. Again, law enforcement cannot do everything as it comes to reporting, and we realize that. And so I think all of these efforts are increasingly important. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Suthers. Commissioner Cuellar is wearing the shirt from the launch, I see. The California versus Hate launch, which was awesome on the steps of the Capitol. Commissioner Salcedo.
Yes, good morning. I also want to echo my fellow commissioner's sentiments about the amazing work that this initiative is happening, obviously under the leadership of Becky. I'm gonna say Becky. And I just want to really emphasize the importance of having this initiative, and the hope that people continue to report, because this is exactly why this initiative came to be. And so I just want to express my gratitude to everyone who is part of this, and for the leadership of the department as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Salcedo. Monica and Alec, can you put the website for Cal Verde versus Hate and the phone number in the chat, just so that folks who are watching can access it and see it? It is wonderful. It is very accessible, and congratulations, Director Monroe. It's a great effort and a great resource for all the people in our state. Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to chair and subcommittee updates and discussion. I'll start with my report. I just want to start with a couple of announcements and congratulations. Commissioner Stanar, who is unfortunately not with us today, recently received the Outstanding Mentor Award from the Faculty Women's Forum at Stanford University. This award recognizes a faculty member for their strong track record promoting and sponsoring women faculty members and faculty from groups historically underrepresented at Stanford. Congratulations, Commissioner Stanar. Also, as was alluded to earlier, the California Department of Justice just released its 2022 annual hate crime in California report yesterday. The results are very sobering and serve as an important reminder for our work as a commission. The report found that hate crimes reported to law enforcement surged in 2022 compared to 2021. In 2022, the total number of hate crime events in California increased by 20%. We will put a link to that report in the chat, so all of you have access to that, and so do members of the public. Next, as some of you may know, at the end of this month, there will be a change to the Bagley-Keene Act. The provisions in the act that allow us to meet entirely remotely will be repealed. The legislation is expiring, which means we will need to start meeting in person. Staff is working to understand these requirements and determine the details for our next meeting, including where and when it will take place. So there may be some changes to our current schedule of meetings, but staff will be in touch on that. I thank you in advance for your patience while we work this out. There is legislation moving through the legislature around allowing us to continue to meet remotely, but that won't take effect until the next year. And it's not guaranteed, of course. So we'll keep you updated on that, but stay tuned as we may have to change our calendar a little bit. But the benefit of that, the exciting benefit of that, is we'll actually get to meet in person for the first time, which we have not yet done as a commission. I also want to remind the subcommittees, as you're doing your reports, that you can use this time to gather information or ask questions of other subcommittees or commissioners. If you want to use this time to do that in your reporting, you are welcome to do that. I also, some questions have come up if subcommittees can meet together. As you know, whenever there are more than 2 commissioners present, we need to publicly notice those meetings. But if the 2 subcommittees do want to meet together, that is possible. We can publicly notice those meetings. So if, for instance, the research subcommittee and the policy recommendation subcommittee wanted to spend some time meeting together, it could be in place of one of our standard commission meetings, or we could publicly notice another meeting. So that is possible, and members of the public would be invited to that. One of the things that we had talked about in a previous meeting is we're going to continue to kind of put the infrastructure together around our commission. And to that end, we recently received feedback from a coalition of groups requesting the establishment of a subcommittee on hate-related bullying. That came up in a previous commission meeting. We want to thank this group for their request. We do not have any external subcommittee or subcommittees focused on a specific topic area, so this is new territory for us. I've asked the staff to look into this, so thank you for your patience as we develop a formal process around receiving input and working with organizations and outside experts outside of the commission. It has been our plan and part of our statute to be able to do that, and so we need to come up with a process for that, and I've asked staff to start working on that. So that's my announcement. The only other announcement I have is related to the subcommittee on policy recommendations. So this is for you, Commissioner Cuellar. We know that there have been several bills in the legislature related to hate, and we've been asked to take a position on some of them. In my discussions with staff about this, taking a position on legislation requires a significant amount of resources. Given some of these challenges, I think it would be important for the policy recommendation subcommittee to take some time to develop a thoughtful recommendation to the commission about whether and how we should take a position on pending legislation. So I will, could your subcommittee, Commissioner Cuellar, you and Commissioner Che, take this up in your one of your next meetings to talk about? The staff has some information on it. I've also forwarded some of information from the public to staff to aid in your discussions.
Yes, for sure. We have had a small discussion about it. So I think we know where we're heading, but if you have more input, that would be very much welcomed. So we can definitely make a more, just make a better decision altogether when we have all that information. So that would be great.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Cuellar. Let's move on. Oh, Commissioner Levin, did you have a question?
Yes, just a quick question. What are the rules relating to commissioners taking a position on legislation when they are doing so not in their role as a commissioner, but in some other role? And I would prefer not to, but I get a lot of wonderful organizations come up to me and say, you know, would you support funding for instance, Asian hate crime victims? You know, so of course, but I wanted to make sure that we all knew what any rules were related to that with respect to us being commissioners. Thank you.
I think in your role as a private citizen, you can take any position that you would wish. I don't know, and I think this is a question for staff around identifying someone as a commissioner. For instance, Commissioner Damsky and I have been asked to attend an event, the launch of a piece of legislation. I think we could be there in the capacity as individuals, but the commission does not have a process and has not taken as based on legislations, we would not be talking on behalf of the commission. I think it's very important around that. I don't think there's an issue with identifying someone as a member of the commission or as a commissioner, but Alec, do you have any feedback on that, or is that something?
Yeah, I think that's right, Chair Roybal. It's at your discretion outside of your capacity as a commissioner.
It's just very important to make sure that whatever position you're taking in or endorsing, that you are not speaking on behalf of the commission. Being identified as a commissioner is one thing, but making sure that you are not speaking on behalf of the commission. Commissioner Filer, did you have a?
Sorry, no, I didn't. I think you kind of made the comment I was going to comment, which is many times because of other things I'm involved in, I say I'm here not as a commissioner, and then I'm able to be a part of whatever the group or organization is if there's something related to policies. So
Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our committee reports. We'll start with the subcommittee on data and research, Commissioner Levin.
Thank you so much. And again, we are involved in multiple projects. And what I'd like to say just generally before going into a little bit about CHIS is that what I think is really important about the way this commission was designed is in each particular realm, whether it's assisting California versus hate or setting up these community forums. Thank you so much. What a beautiful job. And also thank you for that beautiful mural up in LA, Commissioner Filer. So what I think is so interesting is that we all are having the ability to utilize our skill sets in a nice ensemble. And I think nowhere is this more evident than in the Data and Research Committee. Monica and Alec have been so incredibly wonderful to us, but not only with regard to Administrata, but substantively. So what we are leveraging when there are other states where the power of the government is being used to isolate, stereotype, and marginalize people, we are literally getting the top PhDs, the top lawyers, the top universities to look at certain communities and the characteristics of these victimizations, whether or not they're criminal or not. So we have multiple substantive types of research projects that are germinating now with folks that I've been in this business 37 years, with universities and institutes that either I've helped or utilized or both during this time. And when you get this kind of ensemble, particularly with regard to both our committee, and I hope that we get more folks from the outside. There are a lot of people who wanted to be on various subcommittees, and we'll be doing that. But we're leveraging that. With regard to the California Health Survey, which we are adding on, it is a wide-ranging annual survey that delves into a variety of questions relating not only specifically about health, what you would think from experts in the public health area, but what I think is so important, and this is where a lot of the research is going, is how public health can interplay with different entities. Just did a talk at Johns Hopkins, and that was very fruitful. So this whole of government approach, which Becky alluded to, is really part of what we're doing with the Research and Data Committee. With regards to CHIS and this health survey, what we are trying to do is get to various communities.
Commissioner Levin, could you say what CHIS stands for?
Oh, yes. I hope I get this right. California Health, Alec, California Health something survey.
Yeah, it's the California Health Interview Survey. It's a
Interview
representative
survey,
survey
right.
of Californians. And the nice thing about it is it's representative of both the state, but also at the county level. So we can make sort of generalizable conclusions about what's happening at both statewide, but also on a very micro county level.
Thank you.
That's right. I'm sorry. Interview, truth be told, my uncle just passed away. I have a flu and pop. I had to run to the hospital to get to him before it. Yes, the California Health Interview Survey, but the dynamics of it. This is what I've been interested in some time, and to have people, whether it's from NORC, our friends at Stop API Hater involved in that, or us using different surveys. When you get to this level of granularity, and they can isolate certain demographics, this is incredibly useful. And what we end up having occur is there is a limitation based on cost and time with regard to how expansive these questions can be. But this is another example. And by the way, there's another survey which is biannual, which sounds similar, which deals with young people. So there are an array of surveys, institutes, university centers that are involved in different research across the state, and we are getting to leverage this kind of research to include different perspectives. So Professor Sinar has a particular perspective. Director Monroe has a perspective from working in agencies for years with regard to the federal government. I do, from just being a long time nerd. And then when we have the staff, Alec has a PhD in sociology from Stanford. This is the kind of brilliance that we are leveraging to get answers, and it's not just folks with letters after their names. We have people who have been involved in community work, and we also have an extension of victimization surveys that were done not only by NCVS, but a mentor of mine, Howard Ehrlich, who taught at University of Maryland. The state created a first task force in the 80s, similar to what this is. So what I'm saying to you is this all comes around. And if you're in this long enough, whether it's in the community side or the research side, we are leveraging. I want the people of the state of California to know this. We are not only getting the best minds, but the best traditions and really the highest caliber of researchers. I don't want to give out all of the names because I don't know what's out yet and what's not. But when you look at what we're leveraging, when there are other states that are not relying on data to inform what's going on to communities that are sometimes isolated, but that they are being part of the problem, and we are now getting literally refugees, if you will, from other states because of the kind of invective that we know creates atmospheres that not only create the crimes which we research, but all along the social science impactor and indicator spectrum. So that's where we're at, and the CHIS survey is just part of that. And what we're hoping to do is be informed by these kinds of interactions. And just the fact that, gosh, bless you, Alec, in literally no time, when he's setting up the wheels of this go-kart and at the same time helping us mapping where it goes and providing this kind of perspective, which brings in an ensemble of experience and skill sets. I am going around, just came back from Washington, and I'm telling folks in your states, if you have that kind of infrastructure and ability to do it, this is the kind of things that we need to do. And it is all the more urgent, as you'll see a little more information coming out about how various communities get carouseled in to the spotlight of hate and have egregious things done to them. So thank you. That's what we're trying to do. I wish I could go into more detail, but we don't want to give away that the secret sauce is Thousand Island dressing quite yet. But thank you so much. And also thank all of the commissioners and the staff of the Civil Rights Department who entrusted to us to do this kind of objective research, not only for the sake of appealing to nerds like me, but it's something that Alex said. I'm talking out of school, or I'll probably get in trouble. But during these meetings, when it comes up, let's make sure our focus, whether it's from Alec or Becky or myself, that this comes up to getting the voices of these communities heard and being able to get help to them as soon as possible. Thank you all for entrusting this. And lastly, Commissioner Sinar is a godsend and is such a critical part of this. She couldn't speak today because it's a holiday. And I do want to say, just because Muslim women now are under attack in this country, we've not only seen double-digit increases in anti-Muslim hate crime in our research set, but just recently, we saw the first Muslim American woman get appointed, Judge Chowdhury, get appointed on the East Coast. And then we saw a wonderful White House reporter get abused online for asking a question about human rights. And I just want to say that when we have someone who has been performing so exceptionally for our state, and because it's a holiday, she can't be here, I want the world to know that in this state, we protect on the basis of a variety of characteristics, and we will leverage everything we have to enforce the Constitution of this state and the laws of this state, which affirmatively protect people on the basis of a variety of categories, including their faith and their gender. Thank you so much. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Civil Rights Department, for the intensive assistance where we wouldn't be able to be possible without your help. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Levin. Let's move on to the Subcommittee on Policy Recommendations. Commissioner Cuellar.
Good morning, commissioners, and good morning, members of the public. I sit on the Subcommittee for Policy and Best Practices, as well as Commissioner Che. She will not be here with me today, so I will give you a quick update. So currently we have contracted with an individual to help us. We are waiting for the contract to be approved, probably mid-July, I believe we're looking at. So we're waiting for her to come on. We're excited for her. Next, we are exploring language access for survivors of hate crimes. So I think that's really important. So we started that work. And also we are in the middle of compiling a list of organizations or groups that have subject matter experts on hate, discrimination, and transphobia. So if any of the commissioners know of any groups that we need to be reaching out to, please let us know. We are compiling that with the help of Monica. And once we reach out to them, we are going to be asking them an array of different questions. We want to know basically what type of data sources they're using or they oversee. Have they identified any data groups or data gaps, and if they have any recommendations. So we have a couple of different items that we'd like to ask. And again, I'm asking the commissioners if there's anything that you feel that might be important, please let us know. I believe that's all right now. We have discussed a little bit about recommendations for if we're going to go into the political realm, and so we have talked a little bit about that. And to Commissioner Roybal, Chair Roybal, we will we'll have a more of an in-depth discussion once we get some of those documents that you said that you have. I think that'll be a better conversation for us. And then that's all I have for the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Cuellar. I've asked the staff to send you all of that info. Thank you. Let's move on to the Subcommittee on Recommendations for Law Enforcement. Commissioner Suthers.
Good morning. Thank you. Chairman and members of the commission, members of the public, thank you for being here today. I sit on the subcommittee on the recommendations for law enforcement, along with Commissioner Damsky and Director Watts. We've met 3 times since our last commission meeting on the 7th, 16th, and 22nd of this month. One of the first discussions we had was after a very successful public forum last month. We'd like to commend those who put that together. And with that, we had a really robust discussion as it relates to future public forums, having perhaps the content for that forum be provided by maybe one of the subcommittees each time and rotating it throughout the year. So just food for thought. Like Commissioner Levin, I sit on the faculty, so and they know that I'm on this commission and we try to leverage that. I have had incredible interest and follow-up from graduate students and postdoctoral researchers who are interested in working with this commission. So if you, as members of subcommittees, have that kind of need, let us know. They want to do this because it's in their interest, it's in their field, and they believe it's the right thing to do, and they're outstanding. I'd like to follow up on Commissioner Cuellar's database on subject matter experts. We have continued interest from subject matter experts who might serve as what we'll call advisory members of this commission. So once it's been determined how advisory members will be vetted and selected, be quite interested in two things: committing those folks to Commissioner Cuellar's database, and second, getting those folks approved to work with us. We've had some incredible people come to our subcommittee meetings and do presentations in their field of expertise. That's just wonderful. The most important item I have since our last meeting was we've met several times with Manny Alvarez, who is the director of California Post, which, if you don't know, is a peace officer standards and training. They mandate and regulate the law enforcement agencies in the state of California. We've had great conversations about them on a collaboration to put together a law enforcement training video. And the only thing that I'll say, that I can say at this point, is that it looks like in doing so, officers receive what's called post credit. If you don't know, peace officers in the state of California must commit to and complete mandatory ongoing training throughout their careers. And our program will be part of that mandated ongoing training throughout their careers. So we're working on that. Hopefully we'll have more in the future, but the conversations with Post so far have been very, very positive. They are extremely supportive of what we're going to do, and we're really looking forward to having that happen. And I believe, Chairman Roybal, that's all I have.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Suthers. I will reiterate what I said before. I think if subcommittees would like to meet together, so for instance, Commissioner Suthers, for you and Commissioner Adamski to meet with Commissioners Cuellar and Shea around the hashing out of the process, I think that's something that we could make public so that you have dedicated a chunk of time to really have those conversations, and that the subcommittees can provide input to one another. I also know that Commissioner Sinar, I think, is interested in meeting with the policy for the research and data and research subcommittee to also meet with the policy recommendation subcommittee, and we could do that in a public way so that you have a dedicated amount of time to do that. So
Thank you.
please know that is available to you all. Thank you. Let's move on to the subcommittee on community forums. Commissioner Cuellar.
Good morning, everybody, again. I also sit on this subcommittee with Commissioner Filer, and it's the subcommittee on community forums. So we have a little bit of an update. We have been working feverishly on the next community forum, and due to the new Bagley-Keene restrictions possibly coming up, we've had to take a pause on the next community forum just so we can know the logistics of it. I mean, we'll be traveling, things like that. We need to figure out a space. So we are taking a pause on the next one, but we are still actively planning it. The next community forum we had was going to be around mental health impacts on hate. I'm sorry. So we were going to have a discussion around that and some presenters. We do have 2 presenters, I believe, and we're still looking for another one. So if anybody knows of anybody who may be able to present, please let us know. And thank you, Commissioner Suthers, for that very great idea. I think that's something that we will definitely do and talk about in our meetings. So next, again, like I said, since we're pausing, we are still planning on doing that. Let's see, next we have
And I add one comment,
Yes.
Commissioner Quayler, when we're looking at resources, I think the third presentation that we're really looking at is resources in response to mental health and hate. Because we want to do a deep dive on the impact of what hate does to communities around their mental health. And also there seems to be, unfortunately, a lack of resources for some of the communities that have experienced this and need more support with mental health. So as part of that forum, we would like to be able to provide some of those resources that we may have in the state so people can access that.
Yeah, and we are having problems finding that. So if anybody knows of anything. So thank you, Commissioner Filer, for bringing that up. Next is we would like to propose possibly, again, as we learn more about the Bagley, the restrictions, we'd like to propose that maybe at our next meetings that we have, that we add on the community forum, kind of like what we did at the last meeting. So we wanted to propose that today to see how the commissioners feel about that. And then also, we didn't really get any input on our last community forum. So again, Commissioner Southers, thank you for that input. But if any other commissioners had any input on what we did right, what could improve, anything would be much appreciative. And we can definitely incorporate that into the next community forum.
Thank you, Commissioner Quayler. Commissioner Damsky.
Thank you, Chair. I was having a little trouble unmuting there. I want to thank you for the forum, the last forum we had. It was very in-depth. It was a lot of information. Some thoughts that came up in our discussion in the subcommittee on law enforcement, not related specifically to our committee, but Alec raised the question about what was our input that we had on the forum. We had a little bit of a conversation, and in addition to the comments that Commissioner Southern mentioned about perhaps having each subcommittee have a time to organize a presentation at one of our forums, we also were talking about the possibility that if we're going to be doing our forums after our public meetings, having a long day like we did last time, I'm sorry, I'm seeing a notice saying, looks like you're done talking, so we'll lower your hand in 7 seconds. That's weird. To have one presentation per forum, if it's going to be following our public meeting, so that it's not such a long day and that people can really focus on the content and the program of the forum. And the other idea was to perhaps use one of our forums. We were actually thinking about the one at the end of July to present our annual report. But since we don't know what's going to be happening with the Bagley-Keene Act and our ability to put these forums together, the timing may not work for that, but I think it would be a nice thing to present in one way or another, either at a forum or one of our upcoming meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Damsky. Commissioner Filer.
Yes, I just wanted to say, Commissioner Dansky, I think you're right that we both, Commissioner Quayler and I, afterwards realized that's a lot of content for people to take in, and that we may need to revise how much presentation we have and allowing enough time to digest it and to have the public comment period. So thank you for validating something we were already kind of realizing after that last one.
And perhaps a forum conversation might be a way to include all the presenters rather than having a number of presentations in a row.
It's a good idea. Thank you.
Commissioner Salcedo.
Yes, hi. Good morning once again, and I just want to express my appreciation and gratitude to all the commissioners who have participated in the different subcommittees and the amazing work that they are all doing. So just want to say thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Commissioner Salcedo. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Filer.
Yeah, I just have to give a big shout out to Commissioner Levin, our presenter, who once again proved to be what an incredible, valuable resource he is to our commission and to the entire community. Your research, the fact you've been doing it for so long is really valuable to the work we're doing right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Filer. Anything else from the Subcommittee on Community Forums?
No, I think that's all I had. Commissioner Filer, was there anything that we missed? I think that was all though. I think.
Yeah,
Great.
I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you. I
guys.
look forward to the next one. Just as a reminder too, to the commission, the staff has set up a contract with an events organization to help us produce some of these things that happen in person later. So we have those resources available when we figure out what we'll be doing around our next meeting schedule. Alec will make sure to update you on that. Commissioner Filer, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did have something I wanted to make as a comment that we in our subcommittee had discussed, that the importance when this becomes a public forum where people will be attending in person, that we make sure that we're doing it in locations up and down the state so that there's access to people who want to come in person. And it's not just isolated to one part of our state.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And I hope that we, will use the plan, the report that we've developed that's coming out shortly to help guide us, like where we'll place the event, the subject matter, et cetera, so that it is in line with the things that we have talked about. There is no update today from the subcommittee on funding, so no report to that, but I will see if there is any public comment related to any of the subcommittee or chair report.
It looks like we have 2 public comments. Sean, you're on.
Sean, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is Sean Gilbert, and I am a resident of Antioch in the North Bay area of San Francisco. I first want to say thank you to Commissioner Sinar for getting me to Becky Monroe. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley, and we put on a program called Standing Up to Hate in California. We did not know we were going to be on the cutting edge of providing this program to our community in Contra Costa County. But during the time that we were getting ready to put this program on, and I was texting with Becky, she happened to be in Sacramento launching the program. I had no idea until after the fact. So it was a wonderful program. And as I said, I am a resident of Antioch. I'm not sure how much you know about the police department here in our community, but more than 24 of our police officers are being, our whole police department is being investigated right now because of texts and messages that are filled with misogyny, racist comments. It's quite a fiasco here in our community. So when Commissioner Filer talks about mental health in a community, we're experiencing great distress right now about the people that we pay to protect us and provide safety. So I just wanted to make a note of that. The other thing is, I wanted to know, because one of the things that's coming out that we're hearing frequently in our county is issues that are taking place, like for instance, during local school board meetings, local city council meetings, in particular right now, this happened in the Walnut Creek City Council, but individuals who are calling in for public comment who end up actually perpetrating, information that is based on conspiracy theories, attacking members of elected officials who sit on those boards, and just generally creating angst and disturbing comments. And so we're trying to understand, how this might be handled if the Commission on Hate is bending or arcing towards perhaps helping local communities deal with situations like this without violating the Brown Act. I'm throwing a lot at you, but I have 3 minutes. But I thank you so much for all the work you're doing. And the Civil Rights Department is like awesome. And I love Becky Monroe. And I love Professor Sinar for, getting us into this program. And I'm very happy to attend today for the first time. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean, for your public comment. The other thing I would direct you to is the Community Conflict Resolution Unit. Alec, Monica, can you put the contact info in there? They can certainly help with community conflict resolution, as is in their name, and there are resources available there. In fact, I see that there are members from the unit actually on the call today. So you can be in touch with them. In terms of the what's happening at public meetings of elected and appointed officials around our state, we have not had that discussion. We've had a small discussion internally about that, and I know that the legislature is talking about that as well. But thank you for that public comment. It is certainly something that we will look into. Commissioner Levin, did you have something related to this before we take the next public comment?
Yes, I did. I don't want to comment specifically because the Attorney General has launched an investigation with regard to these incidents at the Antioch Police Department. But if I could just speak more generally, get in touch with the folks from San Ramon. I just did a talk for their civic groups down there. So please connect with them. They would be very interested in what you're doing. The other thing is I wanted to alert you that the Human Rights Institute at San Jose State helped put together, and I try to assist them, this CLEAR Act, which relates to law enforcement and extremism. And I want you to know that while I am not talking on behalf of the commission, that in any of my roles, I am working very much on this issue, because one does not have the right to be that kind of out bigot and be in sensitive positions. There are various cases that relate to that. And I also wanted to let you know that I am working with folks, well, I don't want to say where, but let's just say nationally, in the national legislature with regard to these kinds of incidents. And I want to also remind you that the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department does have a dedicated unit that addresses these kinds of allegations. Again, I don't want to go specifically into that, but I want to let you know that from an enforcement side, there are mechanisms at both the state and federal level. Thank goodness we live in a state where we have attorney generals who pursue these kinds of allegations. And we are also have worked at the state level with regard to legislation with respect to extremist misconduct by police. And there is also work to be done that is occurring. I am actually going to be working on that today after this meeting with regard to possible federal legislation modeled after the CLEAR Act in California, which involves investigation and hiring with regard to law enforcement. So thank you so much. I just think it's important when people call in that they know that, you know, I recognize you're not potted plants. You're the folks who we work for. And I want you to know that this wonderful commission and the Civil Rights Department and the partner agencies, at least in this state, take these kinds of things seriously. So thank you so much for bringing this up.
Thank you, Commissioner Levin. We have another public comment. Monica?
Yes, Greg DeJear.
Welcome, Greg.
Good morning. Thank you. Greg DeJear with the ARC and United Cerebral Palsy California collaboration. Concerning the public forums, first of all, I want to thank the Commission for organizing the last one. It's very informative. I think you should give some thought to what the primary purpose is. the way it came off was it was a presentation, primarily a presentation of information to the public and to the members, and only secondarily hearing public comment. I say that because that was a thought that occurred to me as I was listening, and also several people who I knew, who I know that were attending because they called and told me they had attended, and I asked them why they didn't participate, and they said various things along the lines of, well, I didn't have much more to say. It was primarily a presentation, not something for listening to the public. So if what you're after is primarily listening to the public, then things like what Commissioner Filer suggested and other approaches might help with that.
Thank you, Greg, for that comment and for that feedback for the community forums. I know the subcommittee will take that under consideration as we continue to refine what is a new thing for us. So thank you for that. Let's move on to commission member announcements. If I will not go by each one of you, so if you would like, if you have any announcements, please raise your hand on Zoom and I will call on you. Commissioner Adamski.
Thank you, Chair. This is partly related to the our guest who spoke about the League of Women Voters and attacks against elected officials. This month, I attended a program that sounds similar by the League of Women Voters and the ADL here in San Diego, talking about the huge incidence of attacks against elected officials in our county. It was partly a presentation about statistics, which are huge, most of which are directed at elected women of color, and LGBTQ elected officials, with one exception, who our former supervisor who really led the county through the COVID epidemic rather well, but he received more hate attacks than anybody. It was partly looking at where the attacks are happening. A lot of them are online, a lot of them are in public, who's being attacked, and then breaking up into discussion groups to talk about what suggestions we might offer to help change this dynamic, which is happening nationally, as was discussed earlier, but is especially happening here in San Diego. And they will be, this was the second of 3 public forums that they hosted. After the third one, they will be collecting all of the input from the participants and publishing a report, which I hope to receive and I will forward to the commission. I'm really excited about this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Adamski. Other commission member, commissioner announcements. Commissioner Levin, I thought you had one.
You don't want to be a schnorr and raise your hand first. You got, you know, the whole thing with getting this thing through the legislature. This was not the, like, you know, hoedown party that we had so many wonderful people that helped us get this through, that it was stirred into my cereal that this is a coalition, a collaboration. But thank you. If we could just get up that slide so I can be quiet, but I get tons of questions on this from both the public and other commissioners, and then we're coming out with our report soon. So if someone could just get out that one slide. This is what was released by our friends at the California Attorney General's office yesterday. And what we like to do is just put into some tabular form, because I'm trying to organize my life. So a couple of things I think is interesting, and then I'll just be quiet, but this is important. You know, the major cities were a mixed bag. You know, LA and OC up a lot, Sacramento up a lot. I'm talking records near records. Other places went down, but those places, some of them were so adversely affected by the historic hurricane of hate that targeted the Asian American community. We're talking about records in 2 consecutive years, basically, or near, sorry, one consecutive, depending on which database you look at, let's put it like that. And even with a decline, we're seeing historically elevated levels. With a decent percentage decline, we're still seeing historically elevated levels of anti-Asian hate. We didn't hit a record in California, but we got over 2,100 and a 20% increase. This follows a 32% increase the year before. Look at that chart on the bottom left. Okay, we did have a high of about 2,200 and a half in 2001, in that terrible year around 9/11. So what I want to close with, where does this fit and what does this mean? First of all, thank you for the wonderful job that the California Attorney General's office does, because we're getting really good agency participation. I think also some of this increase is due, as Commissioner Filer said, to increased reporting. But we still have massive underreporting. As I said, the last federal, 2019, 54%, even if we notch that needle up a bit, which I think we have. And I think that's why I don't think we should cast a stone towards Los Angeles, but really interesting. Okay, and this is what we were waiting for. Los Angeles counts by victims. The state then filters it for the national numbers so we can compare it to everybody else. And this is why I was holding my tongue. They've done a fantastic job in coordinating with the Human Relations Commission and the various triple numbers, 211 there, for instance. And we're doing this now statewide. This is helping. I really do think it's helping getting reporting up. But listen to this. Los Angeles City at 609 events and 686 victims. That is the highest number of any municipality in the United States this century. I just want, this is some of the stuff that, in other words, they don't get to do with the AGs because we put it around nationally. We were waiting. We saw a 686 number. Previously, we had a 615 number in 2021. When the state filtered it out, it was 443 events with 615 victims. So we're seeing more attacks with fewer victims, so a lot of one-on-ones in there. But hate crimes have also gotten more violent. And the other thing that I think is interesting, Texas, depending on whether you want to go by their state-generated data, hit a record. We're not at a record, but as you can see, we're way up there. Not a record. That was 2001 with 2,200 and a half. So bottom line is we're seeing increases, and in California, they're worse and they're more widely distributed than the rest of the country. What do I mean? Anti-Black was relatively flat or slightly down nationally, up 45% in California. Same thing, anti-gay male. These two groups were up very much the couple of years before. We don't have time to go into the background stuff. I'll put it on Prof. Levin at Twitter, and we're coming out with our report soon. Bottom line is, it looks now when you have Texas, New Jersey, California reporting increases after a previous year set of increases. California was up 32%, and the federal government was up about the same amount to a record. So we're now getting a record over a record. Two last points, very important. First, the LGBT community is under attack. It is under attack nationally, and it is under attack in our state. And I will use every lever that I have professionally and personally to make sure that this community that I love and have represented from the very first thing I did as a lawyer 3 decades ago, we got your back, brothers and sisters, in this state. The Constitution of this state protects you, and the laws of this state protect you. But the data, and that's why I want to do this today, the basically almost real-time data that we're getting, June, we can't even put it together yet. But for 2022, nationally, big states are up and high reporting states are up. And what we've seen nationally is an attack on the LGBTQ community. Nationally, it went more to LGBTQ mixed group, transgender, and gender non-conforming, which includes drag. And we've seen violence and threats both in the state and across the country with regard to that. We will be putting out an advisory. Last point related to that. As demagogues use these stereotypes and conspiracy theories to cast aspersions on a community that has done so much for our country in the areas of the arts, in the areas of academia, in the areas of research and culture, we are finding an attack taking place. And when we see this kind of invective go up online, which we've been seeing, we see this also affect various strata of prejudicial behavior, which includes violence. How does that relate to where we're going on my last point? In the new report that's coming out, and that's why it's taking a little longer, pop sick, I got the flu and want to go to Washington and run some things by some other experts. We're not only seeing a fragmenting of extremism, by the way, California led the country in a recent hate group report, but one of the things we're seeing is an a la carte creation of extremism, where people will take an idiosyncratic created set of prejudices and direct them. That's why you're seeing local officials, librarians, school teachers, election officials, public health officials. That's part of the overflow of hate that has gone to adjacent categories. BLM, Antifa, socialist election stealers. That's what we're seeing, this kind of moored sailboats that are attached with this rising prejudice. How does that get into that last point? During election years, every presidential election season, every presidential election year, we've seen small groups have big increases because they're the topic of political invective. And we've also seen in every year from 92 on, every presidential election year, an increase in hate crimes. And depending on how you count it, if you use 96 as your first year because 92 was coming off a low reporting year prior, you're still showing an increase multiple times higher than what we see in non-presidential election years. So as we see various communities, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, remember the gubernatorial race in Pennsylvania, bomb threats to Jewish schools after a major party candidate launched an attack on Jewish schools. So that's where we are today. We're also seeing many of these conflictual and more violent events having extremist groups like the Proud Boys show up as well. So a very volatile season. 2023, don't know yet. The data in the first part of the year is never predictive. But bottom line is 22, I think now we can say nationally, with California now throwing in those electoral votes of hate, unfortunately, what we are seeing is going to be another probable increase. It's not carved in stone nationally when the FBI comes out with data, the most densely populated, highest reporting, and the top 10 largest cities had double the number of hate crimes in the nation as a whole, and many records broken, including the one from Los Angeles that we're getting in the California Attorney General's report. I'll post more of this stuff on Twitter. Thank you for the commission for the ability to take these numbers and turn them around in real time so we can really adjust public policy to protect religious minorities, immigrants, other race, as well as these other racial crimes in the LGBTQ community, which has, again, consecutive double-digit increases, particularly with regard to those three: mixed group, gender nonconforming, transgender. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Filer, did you have an announcement?
Are we allowed to ask a question of Commissioner Levin about
The commission member announcements are for announcements, not
Okay,
discussion,
thank
because we do not notice things on the agenda. So, but I'm sure Commissioner Levin would appreciate an offline conversation with you. Commissioner Damsky.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that today is Eid al-Adha, an important Muslim holiday. Wish a happy Eid for all those who are celebrating.
Thank you so much for that reminder, Commissioner Damsky. Any other commissioner announcements? All right, let's move to public comment on items not on the agenda. Any public comment? Monica.
No public comment. Oh, wait, never mind, just one. Sean, you're on.
Welcome back.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate the passion of Commissioner Levin and everything that he shared with me. And I also appreciate Commissioner giving me the resources. I will definitely share those resources. I will look at them first. Thank you, Alec, for putting them in in the chat. But I did want to say one more thing that's positive. That one of the panelists on the Community Conversations program that the League of Women Voters, along with the Contra Costa County Library and our CCTV group put on, included Chief of Police of Walnut Creek, Jamie Knox. And I just wanted to give a shout out to him because much of what you're trying to do and talking about training and integrating, I think it was Commissioner Roybal that was talking about including police officer training in the work that the commission is doing. He's already on the cutting edge of that. And I just wanted to give him a shout out for what he's trying to do in Walnut Creek, which is the city I was just mentioning as well in our area that has recently struggled with people who are calling in anonymously and saying some of the things that they say. So I will pass along your recommendations, Commissioner Levin, for, excuse me, I can't remember if it was Commissioner Levin or Roybal that mentioned the Commission on Conflict Resolution. I've already pulled that up on my computer to look at it. So thank you everyone for all the work you're doing. We definitely need it.
Thank you, Sean, for that public comment and for your work in your community and in Contra Costa County. See no other public comment. Are there any future agenda items? Again, a reminder, you may email me and Alec Watts if you have agenda items that you would like scheduled or calendared for a future commission meeting. All right, well, it is 10:22. I want to thank all of you for spending time today on this very important topic, for your continued service to our state through your role as a commissioner on the state of Haight. I want to thank the staff for their resources and Deputy Director Monroe for joining us today to give us important information. We will be in touch very soon about our commission meeting schedule once we work out the issues of getting to meet in person, which I'm very much looking forward to, getting to see all of you in the same room, hopefully in the very near future. Thanks again for your time today, and I officially adjourn this meeting. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by
I second.
Ware, seconded by Commissioner Levin. We are adjourned. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. We are adjourned at 1:23 p.m. on Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. Everyone have a great rest of your day and happy Pride.